The Galactic Council chamber loomed over 11-year-old Ellie Harper, like a massive cathedral built by gods. Hovering platforms arranged in concentric circles rose hundreds of meters above the central dais where she stood, shackled and small. Each platform held representatives from the 17 dominant species of the Galactic Confederation, beings of impossible shapes, sizes, and colors, but all staring down at her with compound eyes, sensory tentacles, or whatever passed for visual organs among their kind. Only humans lacked representation in these hallowed chambers. Humans were too young, too primitive, too dangerous to be granted a seat. And now, Ellie stood as living proof of their judgment. The gravity felt wrong here, slightly too heavy, making her shoulders slump forward, despite her determination to stand tall. The atmosphere, while breathable, carried a metallic tang that burned her nostrils. Even the light from the artificial sun above felt harsh against her skin, calibrated for beings with different photoreceptors. Everything in this place reminded Ellie that she didn't belong. "The human child will remain still for inspection," announced High Arbiter Vorex, a massive TL Oran whose gelatinous body pulsed with bioluminescent patterns expressing disgust. Translator implants converted his chemical speech into words Ellie could understand, though the synthesized voice remained flat and emotionless. Ellie swallowed hard and fixed her gaze on the curved floor beneath her bare feet. The cold metal surface reflected a distorted image of herself, thin frame draped in the gray prison jumpsuit, dark hair cropped short against her scalp, and eyes that had forgotten how to cry. 3 solar cycles had passed since the slavers raided the human colony on Proxima Centauri B, killing the adults and capturing the children as specimens for wealthy collectors across the galaxy. Most died during transit. Some were sold to research facilities. Ellie and 5 others ended up as house slaves for Magistrate Krel, a high-ranking Saurian diplomat. Yesterday she had killed him. Not intentionally, not with malice. But he was dead nonetheless. His thick reptilian neck crushed beneath a fallen gravity sculpture after Ellie accidentally activated the wrong cleaning protocol in his private chambers. "Does the human child understand the charges?" The Arbiter's voice boomed across the chamber. Ellie lifted her eyes. "Yes, speak the charges for the council." She took a deep breath. "I am charged with the murder of Magistrate Krel of the Saurian hegemony, destruction of invaluable property," and she hesitated, an inherent human aggression making me unsuitable for rehabilitation. The last charge wasn't a crime but a designation, one that carried a death sentence regardless of age. Across the galaxy, humans had earned a reputation for unpredictable violence following first contact. After the disastrous Mars incident, where a human mining colony had fought back against Praxi raiders, killing thousands, the Confederation classified humans as a developmentally dangerous species. Humans were permitted to exist only within strict boundaries, confined to their home system and a handful of closely monitored colonies. Any human found beyond authorized zones could be summarily executed or enslaved, depending on local jurisdiction. "I didn't mean to kill him," Ellie said, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "It was an accident." A ripple of communication, some audible, some chemical, some telepathic, spread among the assembled representatives. The human claims accident translated a hovering drone for species that couldn't process her speech directly. Analysis indicates deception probability of 73%. "Of course it does," Ellie muttered. The translation matrices were calibrated for established Confederation species, not humans. Her racing heart, flushed skin, and elevated stress hormones registered as deception markers rather than what they were, the terror of a child facing execution. High Arbiter Vorex's body pulsed with yellow lights. "The Confederation's position on humans remains clear. Your species represents an unacceptable risk. While regrettable that one so young must face judgment, your developmental psychology indicates irreversible aggressive tendencies." A series of images appeared in the air around Ellie, historical footage of human conflicts, from ancient battles to modern warfare. The Mars incident featured prominently, the bloody fight when humans, outgunned and outmanned, slaughtered the Praxi raiders using improvised weapons and mining equipment after diplomatic solutions failed. Look at your history, Vorex continued. No other sapient species in the Confederation maintained continuous armed conflict throughout their pre-spaceflight development. Only humans made weapons before making medicine. That wasn't true, but Ellie knew better than to argue. The Confederation had written humanity's history to fit their narrative, humans as unstable, violent primates who somehow stumbled into spaceflight before achieving the natural civilizational maturity other species supposedly demonstrated. The Council will now vote on disposition, Vorex announced. A wave of colored lights swept through the chamber as representatives registered their decisions. Ellie didn't need to see the results. Everyone knew how this would end. The Council has. I request advocacy rights, called a new voice strong, clear, and unmistakably human. The chamber fell silent as a tall figure emerged from a side entrance. He wore the charcoal uniform of the Diplomatic Corps, the only official human presence permitted in Confederation space. On his chest gleamed the insignia of Earth's unified government, a blue sphere cradled by silver wings. Ambassador Marcus Chen, Earth Diplomatic Corps, he announced formally, approaching the dais. I invoke Section 14 of the Juvenile Justice Protocols, requesting advocacy for this human child. Ellie stared at the ambassador in disbelief. No human diplomat had ever intervened in a criminal case before it risked the fragile tolerance that allowed the diplomatic corps to exist at all. Vorex's body flashed with angry red pulses. The protocols do not apply to unregistered humans in Confederation space. This child was contraband, not a visitor. She was born on Proxima Centauri B, a registered human colony, Chen countered smoothly. Her presence outside authorized zones was involuntary, the result of illegal trafficking by Confederation citizens. Section 14 applies specifically to minors transported against their will or knowledge of law. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Ellie recognized the ambassador's gambit. He wasn't disputing her guilt, but challenging the Council's jurisdiction based on a technicality. The human child has already confessed to killing Magistrate Krel, Vorex said. She admitted to an accident, Chen corrected. I request a proper investigation in accordance with Confederation law. If this Council truly believes in justice rather than prejudice, it will grant this child the same rights afforded to juvenile offenders of any recognized species. For several tense moments, the chamber filled with the sound of representatives conferring with their delegations. Ellie held her breath, afraid to hope. Finally, Vorex spoke. The Council will permit limited advocacy. You have one planetary rotation to present evidence of mitigating circumstances. But Ambassador, his voice hardened, this intervention will be noted in Earth's diplomatic record. The threat wasn't subtle. Earth's position was precarious. One wrong move could lead to sanctions or worse. Chen bowed slightly. Noted and accepted, High Arbiter. He turned to Ellie, his expression revealing nothing as he approached. When he reached her, he knelt to meet her eyes. I'm getting you out of here, he whispered, his voice too low for the translation drones to capture. How? She whispered back. His eyes, dark and determined, held hers. By showing them exactly what humans are capable of. The detention cell was nicer than the slave quarters Ellie had occupied for the past 3 months, but it was a cell nonetheless. Ambassador Chen sat across from her at a small table, separated by a surveillance field that distorted the air between them. Tell me everything, he said, activating a small device that created a localized disruption in the monitoring systems. We don't have much time. Ellie recounted her story in a flat, emotionless voice: the raid on the colony, the deaths, the slave transport, and finally her time in Magistrate Krel's household. He collected us, she explained, had 6 human children, all assigned different tasks. I cleaned his artifacts, ancient technology, art pieces, weapons. He called us his primitive pets. She paused. The others, I don't know what happened to them after he died. Chen nodded grimly. We're looking for them. Now, about the accident, walk me through exactly what happened. Ellie described the cleaning protocols, the gravity sculpture, the errors she made, and how the massive piece had fallen, crushing the magistrate while she watched, frozen in horror. Chen listened intently, occasionally making notes on a thin tablet. When she finished, he sat back, eyes distant as he processed the information. "They're going to execute me, aren't they?" Ellie asked. "Not if I can help it." Chen leaned forward. "Ellie, what do you know about human history? Real history, not what the Confederation teaches." She shrugged. "Standard education until I was 8. Then the colony." "Do you know why the Confederation fears us?" Ellie recited the official line, "Because we're unpredictably violent and developmentally immature." Chen smiled slightly. "That's what they say. The truth is more complicated. Humanity isn't the most technologically advanced species, or the strongest, or the most numerous. But we have something that terrifies them, something no other species in the Confederation has demonstrated to the same degree." "What?" "Adaptability." Chen's eyes gleamed. Most Confederation species evolved in stable environments, developing highly specialized traits perfect for their worlds. When they encountered different conditions, they used technology to modify their surroundings rather than adapting themselves. Humans evolved in a chaotic environment, forced to adapt constantly. We're generalists in a galaxy of specialists. We don't just use technology, we integrate it, improvise with it, repurpose it in ways its creators never imagined. Ellie frowned. "What does this have to do with my case?" "Everything." Chen deactivated his tablet. The magistrate's death wasn't just an accident. The gravity sculpture that killed him was designed with multiple redundant safety protocols. It couldn't have fallen unless those protocols were overridden. "But I didn't override anything," Ellie protested. "I just used the cleaning system wrong." "Exactly." Chen smiled again, wider this time. "No Confederation species would consider using a cleaning protocol to modify a gravity field. It wouldn't occur to them. But you, a human child with no technical training, inadvertently discovered a connection between systems that shouldn't have been connected. You did something unpredictable, something the designers never anticipated." Understanding dawned slowly. "You're saying it was a design flaw?" "I'm saying it was perfect human adaptability at work. You accomplished something impossible through a combination of ignorance and intuition that no Confederation engineer would ever attempt." He leaned closer. "And I'm going to use that to save your life." The council chamber seemed even more imposing the second time. Ellie stood on the central dais again, but now Ambassador Chen stood beside her, tall and confident. Above them, the representatives watched with varying degrees of interest and animosity. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Chen of Earth," Vorex announced, his gelatinous body pulsing with subdued colors. "You may present your advocacy." Chen bowed formally. "Thank you, High Arbiter. Rather than make arguments, I wish to demonstrate the circumstances of Magistrate Krel's death through evidence-based reconstruction." A murmur ran through the chamber. Evidence reconstruction was rare in Confederation proceedings. Most species relied on chemical, telepathic, or neurological truth verification, rather than physical evidence. "Proceed," Vorex said, radiating skepticism. Chen activated his tablet, and a holographic display sprang to life around them. The magistrate's private chamber appeared in perfect detail, its vaulted ceilings, the rare artifacts displayed on pedestals, and the massive gravity sculpture hovering in the center of the room. "With the Council's permission, I've accessed the security recordings from the magistrate's residence," Chen explained. "What you're seeing is the exact configuration of the room moments before the incident." The hologram shifted, showing Ellie entering the chamber with cleaning equipment. Her movements were hesitant, her eyes constantly darting toward the door. "Note the child's body language," Chen said. "This is fear, not aggression. Now observe." The holographic Ellie began cleaning around the gravity sculpture, a complex arrangement of metallic spheres suspended in a controlled gravitational field. When she activated her cleaning device, the fields distorted slightly, causing the spheres to vibrate. At this point, Chen continued, the child noticed dust accumulation in the emitter housing and attempted to clean it using the standard protocol she had been taught. The hologram showed Ellie adjusting settings on her cleaning device, then directing it toward the sculpture's base. Almost immediately, the gravitational field collapsed, sending the massive metal spheres crashing down directly onto the magistrate, who had entered the room unnoticed. A tragic accident, Chen said gravely, but not murder, and certainly not evidence of inherent human aggression. Vorex's body flashed with skeptical patterns. This merely confirms what we already knew. The human child misused equipment and caused death. With respect, High Arbiter, that conclusion misses the crucial point. Chen manipulated his tablet, and the hologram zoomed in on the gravity sculpture's control systems. I've had Earth's engineers analyze the technical specifications of this artwork. The gravity emitters were designed with 17 redundant safety protocols, all of which should have prevented collapse, even if the primary field failed. The hologram highlighted complex circuitry within the sculpture's base. What happened wasn't just user error, Chen continued. It was a catastrophic system failure caused by an unforeseen interaction between the cleaning frequency and the sculpture's own resonance patterns. He turned to address the entire council. In other words, this was a fatal design flaw, one that could have been triggered by anyone using standard cleaning equipment near the sculpture. The fact that it was triggered by a human child is coincidental, not causal. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of sounds, lights, and chemical signals as representatives debated this new information. Ellie glanced at Chen, who maintained his composed expression despite the chaos. When order was finally restored, Vorex spoke again. The Saurian delegation disputes this analysis. They maintain that no design flaw existed in the sculpture, which was created by one of their most renowned artists. Then I request a practical demonstration, Chen replied immediately. I've reconstructed the exact conditions in a secure testing chamber. With the Council's permission, we can demonstrate the flaw directly. After further debate, the Council agreed. The holographic display shifted to show a testing chamber containing a replica of the gravity sculpture. A robotic arm, guided by Chen's specifications, performed the same cleaning procedure Ellie had used. The result was identical catastrophic field collapse, followed by the sculpture crashing down with devastating force. As you can see, Chen said into the stunned silence that followed, this wasn't human aggression or even human error. It was a fundamental design oversight that made this tragedy inevitable. The only relevant question is, why weren't the safety protocols effective? Play again, highlighting the sculpture's internal systems. Our analysis reveals that the artist prioritized aesthetic perfection over safety, creating a system where the backup protocols could be compromised by specific resonance patterns, precisely the kind generated by standard Confederation cleaning technology. Rippled with reluctant acknowledgement. This complicates the Council's assessment. Entirely, Chen pressed. This child is not guilty of murder. At most, she's guilty of being assigned to clean a dangerously flawed piece of technology without proper training or supervision. Communication swept through the chamber as representatives conferred. Ellie held her breath, hardly daring to hope. Announced, the Council acknowledges the evidence of design failure. The charge of murder is reduced to negligent accident. However, his voice hardened. This does not address the final charge regarding the human's unsuitability for rehabilitation and return to Confederation society. As if expecting this. On that point, High Arbiter, I propose a different solution altogether. Earth formally requests the return of this child to human space, where she can be properly reintegrated into her own society. Said immediately. The child has witnessed restricted Confederation technology and facilities. Security protocols prohibit her return. Right of cultural adoption, Chen said, his voice ringing through the chamber. Seemed shocked by this. His body pulsed with rapid patterns of surprise and alarm. You cannot be serious. The right of cultural adoption is meant for orphaned offspring of diplomatic personnel, not criminal children. No such distinction, Chen replied calmly. As Earth's representative, I can claim cultural guardianship of any human minor without family in Confederation space. This child qualifies. Vorex protested. Chen countered. A human child, illegally trafficked, facing execution for an accident caused by design failure. I suggest the Council consider the diplomatic implications of denying this request. In the air. While humanity remained confined and controlled, Earth still maintained crucial resource agreements with several Confederation members. Disrupting those agreements over one child might satisfy the hardliners, but it would damage many economic interests. An eternity of debate, Vorex's body settled into patterns of resignation. It's the right of cultural adoption with conditions, he announced. The human child will remain in Ambassador Chen's custody and must depart Confederation central space within one planetary rotation. Furthermore, Earth's diplomatic corps must accept responsibility for any future actions taken by this child. On behalf of Earth, I accept these terms with gratitude. Believe what she was hearing. As the Council formally adjourned, the shackles around her wrists disengaged automatically, falling to the floor with a clatter that echoed through the massive chamber. Turned to her with the first genuine smile she'd seen since her colony was attacked. Hummed quietly as it accelerated away from the Confederation capital world. Ellie sat in the passenger compartment, pressing her face against the viewport to watch the massive orbital structures recede into the distance. "When in about 4 hours," Chen said, entering the compartment with 2 cups of something steaming. "Then it's a straight shot to the Earth diplomatic outpost at Proxima." "Cups. Real hot chocolate. Thought you might like it." Cautiously. After months of tasteless nutritional pastes formulated for human consumption, the rich aroma made her eyes water. Taking a small sip, the sweetness was almost overwhelming. Not just for this, for everything. Across from her. "No need to thank me. I just did what any human would do." Ellie countered. "No one came for us when the slavers attacked our colony. No one looked for us afterward." "That's where you're wrong, Ellie. We've been looking. We just couldn't act openly without risking war." Leaned forward. "The truth is, humanity's position in the galaxy is complicated. The Confederation fears us but needs us, our resources, our innovation, even our unpredictability. We walk a diplomatic tightrope every day." "Understand about humans," Chen said softly. "We never abandon our own. Not really. Sometimes we have to wait to plan, to find the right moment. But we don't give up." Pocket and removed a small data chip, turning it over in his fingers. "Your case gave us something we've needed for years, a legitimate way to test a theory." "What theory?" "Fear of humans goes beyond our capacity for violence." Chen's eyes met hers. "They fear our adaptability, our ability to see connections and possibilities that never occur to them. Your accident with the gravity sculpture proved that you inadvertently did something their engineers considered impossible." "An experiment?" said firmly. "You were a child who needed help. But your situation created an opportunity to demonstrate something crucial. Humans don't just break rules, we redefine what's possible." This contains the full technical analysis of that gravity sculpture. Our engineers were astonished by what you discovered. That cleaning error you made? It revealed a fundamental principle of gravitational manipulation that Confederation scientists have overlooked for centuries. Tiny chip. I don't understand. Chen promised. "Once we reach Proxima, you'll have options. Return to Earth if you want. or join one of our advanced education programs. What you did by accident, others will learn to do deliberately. But this time there was something fierce in it. The Confederation has kept humanity contained because they fear what we might become. Your case just proved their right to be afraid, not because we're violent, but because we're innovative in ways they can't predict or control. Viewport. The Confederation capital had dwindled to a bright point among countless stars. She asked quietly. The ones from Magistrate Krel's household. Her. We moved as soon as your case created the distraction we needed. They're on their way to Earth now. And the slavers? The ones who attacked our colony? One battle at a time, Ellie. But I promise you, they'll face justice eventually. Panel, and a holographic display appeared between them, a map of known space, with human territory highlighted in blue. It was a tiny region compared to the vast expanse controlled by the Confederation. Restricted, underestimated, Chen said, studying the map. But that won't last forever. Each time they underestimate us, we learn. Each time they restrict us, we adapt. Each time they contain us, we find new paths forward. Intently, that's what makes humans different. We don't just survive, we transform. And one day the galaxy will understand exactly what that means. She had endured the loss of her colony, the months of slavery, the terror of standing alone before the council. She had survived it all, not through violence, but through persistence and adaptability. She asked. He gestured toward the stars beyond the viewport, his eyes reflecting their distant light. We show them what humanity is truly capable of, one impossible thing at a time. Surged as they approached the jump point, carrying them toward human space and whatever future lay beyond. The chamber hadn't changed. The same massive platforms arranged in concentric circles still rose hundreds of meters above the central dais. The same artificial light still shone too harshly for human eyes. The same representatives from the 17 dominant species still watched with varying degrees of curiosity and disdain. Ellie Harper stood on the dais not as a prisoner, but as Earth's youngest diplomatic attaché. She cut an impressive figure in her formal diplomatic uniform. The insignia on her chest had evolved Earth's blue sphere, now orbited by not just silver wings, but a complex array of symbols representing humanity's growing coalition of independent colonies. Still serving after all these years, shifted his gelatinous form in what might have been discomfort. As attaché Ellie Harper of Earth, he announced, chemical patterns rippling across his body. You may present your petition. Her movements measured and confident. The gravity still felt wrong here, slightly too heavy, but she had trained for this moment for years. Galactic Confederation, she began, her voice clear and strong. I come before you not to revisit the past, but to shape our future. 10 years ago, I stood in this chamber as a child facing execution. Today I stand as a representative of humanity's potential, the same potential you once feared. Device. And a holographic display materialized above the dais, a three-dimensional model of the gravitational manipulation system she had accidentally discovered as a child. Tragic accident has led to a revolution in gravitational engineering, she continued. The Harper field principle, as it's now known, has applications ranging from medical technology to deep space navigation. Today I formally submit humanity's request to share this technology with the Confederation in exchange for the full diplomatic recognition of Earth and its colonies. Through the chamber, some of surprise, some of outrage, but many of genuine interest. Ellie said, her voice rising slightly, I petition the Council to reconsider humanity's classification as a developmentally dangerous species. Our history contains violence. Yes, as does the history of every species represented here. But our defining characteristic is not destruction but creation, not conquest but connection. Floating above her. This technology wasn't developed through aggression but through curiosity, not through domination but through observation. These are humanity's true strengths. With complex patterns as he consulted with other senior representatives. Finally, he spoke. Receipt of Earth's petition and technological offering. A formal review will be conducted according to Confederation protocols. He paused, his next words coming reluctantly. The Council also recognizes that recent human developments warrant reconsideration of certain classifications. It's not yet, but it was the beginning of something new. Prepared to leave the chamber, she caught sight of Ambassador Chen, now Earth's chief diplomat, watching from a side gallery. He nodded slightly, a gesture of pride and acknowledgement. It told her that humanity's strength lay in transforming the impossible into the inevitable. Looking around at the council chamber at representatives who now regarded her with cautious respect rather than fear or contempt, Ellie knew he had been right. In this vast, ancient galaxy, they would thrive, not through conquest or violence, but by doing what humans had always done best, adapting, connecting, and transforming limitations into possibilities. Thing at a time.